My name is George Benson, and I was an intern for 6 months in Bangladesh, in the capital city Dhaka. I spent most of my time there, but I also did travel briefly to the Philippines, actually, where Adam and Kate, who's also here, one of our other interns, Kate, and another intern, Chandra, both of which were in the Philippines, where we all got to meet and work together on the World Social Forum on Migration, which is a global gathering of civil society, social movements, NGOs, academics, etc., that all work on the topic of migration. We were able to meet there. But as I say, my internship is primarily focused on Bangladesh, and that's what I'm going to be speaking to today, is my experiences in Bangladesh. I want to open this with a thought that when I was asked to come and do this presentation, which is a requirement of the internship if you guys are thinking about that, I was asked to come and do this presentation to impart some wisdom maybe, talk about my experiences, give a bit of a precursor to those of you who are thinking about this experience. And I found myself really embittered by it. I found myself really, really struggling with the idea that I should have to condense the most incredible 6 months of my life into 5 to 10 minutes. It's a really challenging thing to do. And I give so much credit to the people like Adam who managed to encapsulate that so well in 5 minutes. And I give you credit, because that's fantastic credit. I don't think I can do that, so I'm going to be a little bit looser, I'm going to be a little bit barer to you guys, and hopefully that works out well for all of us. I want to start with talking about expectations. This is a picture in Bangladesh, of Bangladesh. And I think that maybe for some of us, this is an expectation of what traveling overseas looks like. It'll be exotic, it'll be beautiful, it'll have all these incredible things it'll see and do. That's all true, absolutely true. I don't want to discourage you from that. But you're also going to see things like this. And that is something that you will experience day in and day out. This man's name was Muhammad, and he lived just beside where I lived, except I lived in a 6-story apartment building, and he lived in this little makeshift shack. He and who I believe was his son lived here every day along the railroad tracks, where I walked to work every day. And seeing his struggle and the struggle of so many others day in and day out was without a doubt the most challenging aspect of my time in Bangladesh, and something that I will never forget. And I hope for any of you that go to these places and experience that, I hope that you'll be open to the chance to see what these people live day in and day out. And so when I talk about being embittered, I'm not only embittered for the difficulty personally that I experienced, but the fact that I can't accurately represent what these people go through, because I don't understand it. I try to very deeply to see what it is they do and how they live. But it's very, very minimal, the kind of experience that I have. So that's something that I want to preface with starting off. As much as there are challenges when you go and do one of these placements, you learn so much and you have so many wonderful experiences. When I was in Bangladesh, I was working for what's called the WARBE Development Foundation, which is a migrants' rights organization based in Dhaka. They work with the over 6 million Bangladeshis that go abroad and work in places like the Gulf and Europe especially, but also Southeast Asia. I had the opportunity to be involved in translation work, logistics. We organized a national consultation on the high-level dialogue on migration and development, which will be going on in New York in October, which will potentially decide how migration, transnational migration from developing countries and from the global north, how that is governed. And that's a really remarkable moment, which thankfully I was able to study when I was there. Remains to be seen how that will happen, but I was so honored to be involved in that process and to do so much more with the organization. For those of you who are thinking about that kind of process and being involved with those organizations, I would caution you and urge you to go in with as open a mind as possible, because no 2 intern experiences will ever be the same. It was really, really rewarding to talk to Adam and to talk to Kate and all the other interns about what we were experiencing. And we could pinpoint certain things that were very similar. But at many occasions, the work that we've done was dramatically different. Dramatically different. It was, well, today, I didn't do anything. I didn't have any tasks given to me. I had to go out and do research for a professor that I was working with here at the university. And the next day, I was working until 4 a.m. with my boss, who had a call from New York and needed to get a document sent. It's entirely different for each intern, and the attitude that you go in with will automatically affect how that experience goes, how that happens. So there are a lot of challenges in Bangladesh. There are a lot of amazing opportunities there. And I would suggest to you, and I think as Adam has put, that You go there with the intention of doing good, with the intention of assisting your organization. But I think particularly from someone of my perspective, Caucasian male, of Canadian extraction, you're probably going to get more of that experience than they will. In the sense that every day your perspective will be challenged, every day you will see and learn new things, and every day you will have the opportunity, potentially, not the guarantee, but the opportunity to take in another culture. And I cannot express to you how thankful I am to have had that experience. It has absolutely changed my life. This is one of the things you're going to experience if you go to this part of the world. Some of you may have seen this. This is Newmarket in Dhaka, one of the busiest parts of it. This is a light day traffic. This is calm, this is quiet, this is peaceful. This is when I go to have lunch and relax. This is what people there are experiencing every day, and you have to get used to that. When I think about the opportunities that I have there and the challenges, I also have to think about what I learned. And I really, really resist the idea that there should be one thing that I learned or one sort of moment that should stand out and define my experience. There isn't one. There are many. I can think of one of the first days that I was there, without a cell phone, without any money, without an idea of what the hell I was doing. And I went to a market with one of my friends, and there were street children coming up to us, begging for money. And of course I had no Bangladeshi money, I didn't speak a word of Bangla. I think other than thank you, I guess people could say don't know about it at that time, but that was it. And she grabbed my hand. She grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. And even as I stood there, looking into the distance, trying to separate myself from this moment, she held on and she kept me anchored in that moment with her hand. And I will never forget the piercing brown eyes that looked into my soul when I had absolutely nothing I could do for her. Those are the kind of moments I think that will stick out to you and that you'll notice the most when you think back. This is a picture of one of the informal settlements in the center of Dhaka. And you can't see it, but on the other side of this is the wealthiest part of Dhaka. Big skyscrapers, shining buildings, expensive hotels. These people, many of them, work in those places. They work in the buildings as caretakers, as domestic workers, as security guards. And they transit every day across the water. Those kind of juxtapositions, I think, really, really hit home to me the inequalities that are present in our world. And certainly that was hit home to me as I was able to go back to my security compound every night and sleep comfortably with a mosquito net and water when people literally outside of the gates of where I was living didn't have any of that. So those kind of contrasts, I think, are quite spectacular if you're willing to take them in. Not everyone is. This is Baga. It's a British club for expatriates. It's a paradise, isn't it? Beautiful. It's what I would consider a 4 or 5 star resort. They've got security guards, they've got a beautiful bar, they've got a wonderful swimming pool, they've got guest services. It's wonderful. You could go on vacation there, never even know you were in the developing world. I take a lot of, I'll stay away from offense, but I take a lot of issue that people would go to a place like this where they have those opportunities and then hide away in fortresses of wealth like this. And I think I would encourage anyone who was to have those kind of experiences to seek these places out and then to turn away from them, to see them and then to move on and see what else is available to you. What I think you'll find most of all is that the people there are so incredibly open to sharing themselves with you. And I talk about this a lot as I am back here in North America. There is a different mentality, there's a different culture around how you relate to people in North America than there is in places like South Asia, Bangladesh. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I won't get into all of those. What I would say is that the opportunities that some of these children who were beggars, who lived just outside my compound and came to play with me sometimes when I was in the field, the opportunities that they showed me when I went there were phenomenal. The way they wanted to relate to me, wanted to share with me. And even though it's an incredibly difficult situation that they find themselves in, they still want to share with you. And being open to that is pretty incredible. And of course, when I was there, I had the opportunity to link up with people from my own perspective, from my own understanding of the world. This is my friend Rod from Toronto, who goes to Trent University, and he was there on a development program, the same one that we do, the SFD program. And he and I are here at Krishna Janmashtami, which is a Hindu holiday, experiencing Hindu culture in a primarily Muslim country. So of course there's all these layers of identity and interconnections. that are playing out here. White men at a Hindu festival in a Muslim country, wealthier part of town moves into a poorer part of town. There's a lot of intersections there that are really fascinating to study. And certainly when I had someone who I could go to and say, wow, I experienced this, I saw a child do this, or I met a person in my office and they did that. That was really interesting to bounce off of him because he had a similar perspective to mine, and we could play that out in the sense that he was experiencing the same things, yet still had that same perspective as me. The thing that I think, I don't want to say that stands out the most, but there are opportunities for peace and there are opportunities for self-reflection there, and that was something that meant a lot to me, was that I was able to have those opportunities. And again, that privilege comes back to you in that I can step out of the city. I can go to a place like this. This is Muktagasha in the north of Bangladesh, where my boss has a sort of palatial estate. Interestingly enough, he's an NGO worker, yet his family has inherited this land over the course of 200 years, and they've built up quite an estate. I was able to go there. So there's so many connections, and I think probably elucidated enough of those to you, but that was one that really meant a lot to me. And this kind of field here was just spectacular to sit in. This is a rice paddy. I'd never seen rice before. I don't know if any of you have. The first time I went into it, I was with a bunch of children from the village who were following me around. They speak a rural dialect of Bangla, which I speak kind of urban Bangla, very poorly. And I went into this field, I walked into the middle, and I picked up some of these kernels of rice, and I said, wow, this is rice. And they looked at me like, yeah, we live this every day. This is rice. This is what we eat. This is what we survive on. This is what sustains us. And I said, I've never seen this before. I've never in my life held up something that feeds, I'm sure you could be conservative and say, a third of the world's population. That was something that was really incredible for me to see. And in the process, I was able to make some really incredible friends, some amazing connections. This is my friend Farhan, who lived in the same building. Mine's just to the left here now. He was a phenomenal contact person to become close with. And this is us on Eid al-Adha, which is a day where cows are sacrificed in the Muslim tradition. And to have him there to help me navigate those things was incredible. And for those of you who do decide to take an opportunity like this, having someone who can ground you from your perspective, and having someone who can ground you from the perspective that you're coming into contact with, and knowing that they won't necessarily have all the answers. My friend's a middle-class Bangladeshi. His experience is very separate and different from someone who lives on the streets. But he's an access point, and those are really important. This is Nilgiri in eastern Bangladesh near Chittagong, for those of you who are familiar with Bangladeshi geography. And this is the sunset. This picture doesn't have a lot to say philosophically, but I think it's very indicative, again, of that theme that there are incredible opportunities out there. The reason I was able to access this one was that I became very close with the Bangladeshi family who invited me to their daughter's wedding, and then subsequently on our honeymoon. We've done a little differently there. But this was one of the opportunities that I had, was to go and visit what is a military vacation spot. And so I had access to this because I was with this family. And this actually is looking towards Myanmar, where the sun is probably what we often refer to as Burma, just across there. And it was incredible to see how close those two worlds were, and they were separate. There's not a road that runs through there. You have to take a really circuitous kind of direction to get to that point. Very, very close, yet very, very separate. Again, this isn't terribly philosophical, but this is a particularly beautiful one. This is in Ashulia, just north of Dhaka. And I love the contrast here. Older man, obviously developed Muslim, moved to Dhaka. This is some of the work that I did on National Human Rights Day for my organization. The man with the scarf, in between the two gentlemen there, that's Saiful, my boss, and then left with the man pointing, that is he's the Secretary General of the organization, and beside me is Jasia, the program director, all of which were my colleagues, my bosses, my friends, my brothers and sisters when I was there. It was such an honor and a pleasure to work with them. Again, these are, I don't know if you can remember her face, but this was one of the girls who I was playing with in the field earlier. They're playing cricket. That's a makeshift bat and a ball. They're playing cricket. And the amazing thing about these kids is that they would come to you, ask you for money. And they did this every day. And if I said no, or if I didn't have any money that day, they'd say, okay, and then they were ready to play. And it's amazing how quickly they can move between worlds, from beggar to child, just like that. And I think that really speaks powerfully to the toughness that some of these people have, that all these people have, when they're engaged in situations like this. In one of the protests on National Human Rights Day. I want to end on this, and I think my time is just about up here. This is a family of garbage workers. You can't quite see what they're next to. I'll show you the next slide. I believe a grandmother, daughter, grandchild. You can see the flies floating around their house. Bangladesh is a place that has a lot of problems. And there's a very real sense that people are suffering. People are starving, people are dying, but they want things to get better. And every day I had to go out onto that street and know that, as Adam said, I would go home. I would come home to wealth and to privilege and to comfort. And here these people were struggling. And what gives me the strength to go on is knowing that this family was proud of what they did. You watch these men shovel garbage for the better part of an hour. They were proud of what they did, believe it or not, shoveling garbage every day. Because they believed that it would take them somewhere better, that their child would have a better life. And the thing that breaks my heart is that isn't necessarily true. They might be garbage pickers for the rest of their lives. But the ambition and the willingness to carry on in spite of those difficulties is inspiring. And every day that I get up and I have to go back to school, I'm reminded of the fact that these people continue to do the impossible every day. And that gives me so much strength to know that they can do that. So thank you very much.